today's webinar, Santos will look how Cisco is bridging the gap with state-of-the-art of software features and unparalleled innovative technology to allow your company to grow even in these unprecedented times through data analytics, leverage new technology, and the power of network software. So I'm passing on to you. It's over to you, so Santos, now.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. Okay, so one of the key things I think when you start to look at IoT and how it's being developed, you've got the different various strands, whether it's industrial IoT or more from a internal enterprise building, standard enterprise network. You've got this key issue of getting data where it needs to go. Previously, if you looked at many networks, especially on the industrial side, all the data stayed in that industrial side, and you had all of the data on the IT side. What you're finding now is there is an unparalleled need for all of the data that is being generated in the OT side to be fed and used, and given the opportunity to actually shape how companies are actually using and changing the way that they do business to get the maximum benefit from all of the technology they're investing in, whether it's across its enterprise or whether, of course, it's straight across its OT side. So one of the key things is driving this is the digitization on the OT side. So industrial control systems, they're pushing forward. You've got tons of new innovation coming in all of the time. You're getting innovation on the IT side as well, but I think if you were to sit down and compare the two, I think you're seeing far more on the industrial side in where they're going, new practice adoption, new technologies, looking for all of the new advantages that they can get. This, of course, is being underlined by everything. So there is an underlying theme to everything that is discussed today, is that security piece as well, because I don't think any presentation now can not have a very small comment around security as well, because the threats are just coming in hourly, it seems like, across both IT and OT networks. But one of the things that Cisco really sort of excels at is this merging of the two. So Cisco is probably the world leader in enterprise networking, IT network infrastructure. They've been the founders of some of the most used technology across the network right from the very beginning, from when they first founded in San Francisco. So what they're doing is they're taking that expertise in the IT side and they're actually pushing it across. They're bridging the gap. Sort of classic marketing puns, but they are trying to join the two up together, because they know the fact that a unified solution that not only has the full IT but the full OT is the way to be able to deliver what everybody is after: secure, reliable, robust networks that can cope with all of today's demands, but also then have the flexibility of the data analytics, data availability, being able to make quick decisions because data is on hand. I mean, the sort of classic example which I use is if you look at how fast software is changing on mobile phones, every year it seems there's a new hot bit of software. But it comes out so fast, and then within months it can have millions and millions of users, if not more, and then all of a sudden it is an absolute staple of what everyone has on their mobile phone. The hardware hasn't changed. The mobile phone physically hasn't changed, but the software has dictated how that mobile phone is now used. And the same is exactly the same for networks as well. We have an underlying hardware infrastructure, but the software that is coming on board, the software that people want to use, has to be able to, leverage the hardware and the best capabilities, but also add new features, be able to, keep up with, what people want to do and how they want to run their companies. And the only thing that could move fast enough is software. If you were to try and do this on a hardware level, you'd probably have to replace your hardware every 6 months to be able to add all the new features and capabilities that you're wanting to deploy on networks. That's completely unfeasible. So the only way to do it is to have a good, rock solid hardware base, and then have the software be able to be flexible enough and also powerful enough to be able to offer all of the new features and functions that you want now, tomorrow, and also in a year's time, 2 years' time. That's the key to where Cisco really leads, is the fact that they're building the entire network through IT and OT, but it's able to withstand this monumental change, because no one knows really what we're going to want in a year's time. Before it was, you put a network in, it stood alone, and then you replace the whole network. Now, you put a network in, and then in a couple of months' time, you want to add a feature. A couple of months' time, you want to get more data out of it. You want to do something. You want to start to run new analytics platforms. You want to, do new features and things. That's what these platforms have to be able to do, and are able to run that way. So what Cisco have done is they've created things like validated designs. So these are preset, you can download them as well, and they are full IT through to OT, if you wish to do so. Full designs sitting right across all the hardware, all the software, how to set it up, how to actually deploy and manage all of your network. And it's a tested design, it's a validated design right the way across the network. So this helps bridge that gap between, setting up your IT and also setting up your OT to get the best applications for it. And then, of course, they've got a strong development side as well. So Cisco have been investing in, for the last few years, in a lot of software development. So DevNet, you can go on, you can write your own programs, you can write your own scripting, you can do a lot within the actual programming of your network, because they know that that is something that is going to be leading the change, because all of these new programs and these new apps, or whatever it is that come out next, they're going to be what's driving how you use your network. So you've got the core infrastructure, which from our point of view, from an OT side, is built for IoT. So you've got that trust, you've got your core IT network, but then what you want to do is you want to then be able to scale that network. So at the moment, if you look at most networks, you'll have a fully compliant IT network, and you may go to an OT network, and it will just be simple configurations, products installed, configured, left alone, and they're only touched when there is an issue, or you want to do some routine maintenance on them. With the speed at which networks are being used and what we're using them for, and also the threats that are coming in, unfortunately, hackers have worked out the fact that for some companies, instead of trying to bash in their front door, the big gated IT front door, if they nip round the back and actually attack the sort of OT side of things, they can get a soft entry. So what we need to do is we need to be able to take that core security, that intent, policy, and automation that we use on the IT side, and push it right the way through to make sure the fact that we have a rock solid network completely across all of every device that we plug into. And one of the things that Cisco has done is they've literally been able to do that policy making right the way across all of its all of its products, including all of the ones that sit within the OT side. That's very powerful when you think the fact that you can make a corporate IT change and it will then run right the way through down to every single switch, even the ones on the factory plant floor, to update new security policies, make sure that there isn't any unwanted intrusion, only people authorized can access things. It's those sorts of things which really expand and deliver that unified network approach. Of course, the other thing it does is give you efficiency, control, and the ability to actually do analytics and things. Once you're able to fully connect all of your devices instead of having them sort of siloed away or on separate systems, if you've got all of the data together, you can then run full analytics. You can look at all the data and say, actually, if we do XYZ on plant A and XYZ on plant B, we're going to get a 10% increase in productivity, because I can see from the data we've got room to improve. Having that unified data pool is absolutely massive, and that's where it also helps with the fact that on the security front, that if you have a full idea of how your network works, you can then design it, make changes, put the policies and automation in place that's going to be best for your network and get you the best result at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, everyone's probably designing networks to do a function, but a mandatory sub-function is, how do we get the best value for what we're going to actually be spending on the network? So, anything that we can do to add additional value to be able to make life easier, free up time, or even just increase that bottom line productivity is an absolute must. And this is where a lot of this one-click, full visibility comes into it. And then the other thing as well is, in today's world, everything needs to be done now. I don't think there is any application that I can think of at the moment that, if you're not connected to the internet and able to get updates pretty much instantly, it seems like you're just waiting around wasting money. That always on connectivity, especially when you then start to do things like deploying edge computing, where the actual devices connected to your networks are able to make decisions. You can actually tell them to, if you see a pressure valve reach this point, send the command not only to the control room to say, oh, I think we've got a problem here, but also tell it to shut the valve off before it gets to the point where it then starts causing damage. It's doing that intelligence at the edge, which is absolutely key to being able to respond quickly enough. If you think of some of the scales of networks we're talking about now, they're getting absolutely huge. Could be covering hundreds of miles, if not thousands, depending on the applications, whether it's wind farms and things like that, covering huge, vast areas. The time it would take somebody to get somewhere, you need to have already had a decision made and an action taken. And the costs involved can start to run into millions depending on the actual equipment and things like that. So having a network that is able to do that is absolutely vital in this new era. So kind of touched on it a bit, the visibility. I remember when I first sort of started out in the OT side of things, first question when somebody came to me and said, oh, I'd like to do something with my network. What's your network look like? Well, I think I've got some over there, I've got some over there, and I might have a couple, scattered in another building. Okay. Especially on the OT side, not many people had, full network diagrams, knew absolutely every device. The way that we use the network technology now, we need to know and account for every single device. A single device on the network that no one knows about is a guaranteed security risk. If bad people find it, they're in. And also, it can cause unprecedented issues. It can absolutely foul up the entire network and cause problems and give you misleading results and everything else. So one of the first things you need to know is everything on your network. Once you know everything on your network, you can then actually plan your network. You can know what is going on. The amount of times that even now we still do site surveys and remote data collection to sort of analyze what's on the network, and you always come up with about 2 or 3 devices that always get a blank look and, oh, I'll have to go have a look and see where that one is. These are hardware assets on your network that can directly affect every single thing connected to it, and not knowing what it is, what it does, what's plugged into it, is quite worrying, really. So one of the first things is, when you go for a unified sort of Cisco solution, is they'll be able to tell you everything on your network. They'll be able to visually show you through the software platforms every device, its current health status, what it's connected to, everything about that. With that, you can then also be able to stop the threats before they become a problem. You can gain the control. So once you know where everything is, what it does, you can then start to, as in the previous slide, enact policies, enact protocols. You can make sure that, I want these units completely locked down and only I have access to them because they're key devices on the network, and I don't want the contractor coming in, plugging into them and maybe, screwing up a configuration and dropping half the network off. So I'll allow him only access through a small little private area, a little VPN or a sub VLAN, to be able to just only see what he needs to be able to see. Now, if you wanted that scenario previously, you'd have to go around and configure all the switches on your network to allow that. With the new systems that Cisco are doing, things like DNA Center, which all of this can sort of plug into, you can, through one interface, create a whole mini isolated network for a contractor to come in. You can give him authorization to access certain devices. He can only see those devices, and when he leaves, you can then remove it. So the power to be able to do that sort of thing is amazing, because if you look at a lot of how issues start, a lot of them come from, unnecessary access to various things in the networks. But if you can do it so that you can spin up essentially a whole VPN directly from any terminal in your building to any other device and give one-on-one access, and so you can turn around to anybody that comes into the area, plug in on port 4 on that switch because it's the only one that works for you. You've automatically got the right credentials to talk to the device that you need to talk to. You can do all your business, and then when you're finished, it's all going to get removed at the end of the day within a few clicks in a control room. The power of that is absolutely huge. And then, of course, the other thing as well is, as we move into, I want to say uncertain times, but, as the 1st of January approaches and more things get a little more complicated, we still have more and more compliance things that we need to do more compliance. There's new regulations coming out all the time, whether we're part of the EU or not, because they're realizing that, being able to prove exactly what is on your network, who's done what, and who's got access to it is so key. So one of the things that these systems also offer is the fact that you can do full accountability. You can turn around and say, I absolutely know that. Only Mark and Steve can access this product. only Jeff and Tom can access this product and I can access all of them. So we can do a full trace liability across all of the network and tick anything, any paperwork that any government, irrespective of where they are, wants to throw at me, because I can then immediately just prove to them our network is fully secure, robust, and I have full accountability of everyone on the network. So if we look at some of the challenges of securing the industrial network, you've got skill shortage. I think this is probably one of those ones where everyone knows what they would like to do a lot of the time, but it's actually having the right people to be able to actually implement it, and not only come in and implement it, but actually use it on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that I've seen fairly frequently across a few years is, yeah, companies will go out, invest in, the latest technology. They'll have somebody come in, install it and everything else, but once they walk away, their guys aren't able to actually use it on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things that needs to be taken into account is who's actually going to be using it, how are they using it, are they trained to be able to use it, and are you getting the best out of it? Because there are some companies that will always go out and invest in the latest technology, but are they actually getting the most out of it? So that is something else that, needs to be looked at. Are you getting the best out of your current technology? Or is it time to then move on and get some new technology that enhances that and then gives more features, and really complements it? The threat landscape, as mentioned, always going to be there nowadays. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and can say 100%, we're completely immune. No one can touch us. 53% of all industrial companies have already suffered some sort of cyber attack. It seems like every day, every other day on the news, there's some big company, announcing that, this year, last year, today, tomorrow. I think the last one I saw, Manchester United football team got cyber ransomed. And you think about, what systems they must be having. Yep, somebody got into Manchester United and completely held them to ransom. Oh, apologies, wrong button. Hopefully everyone can see me now. The compliance piece, millions of new compliances seem to be coming out all the time, and also that agility piece, converging the OT, IT, making sure the fact that unified policies are able to be rolled across. You don't have that classic siloed, this is the guy in charge of our IC network, this is the guy in charge of our OT network. Have they ever spoken to each other? No. I've actually had that in the past. I went to a large manufacturing facility. I was doing a whole load of work for the new production plants they were doing. Apologies. I asked to meet the IT, head of IT as well. Found out that the two guys who had been running the two biggest networks in the entire company had never actually spoken to each other. Once they did, they then found out that there was a whole bunch of stuff that they could actually work together on and cut their workloads, because they were essentially duplicating or doing something that the other one already wanted to implement, but they'd already implemented it. So it is having that wider IT discussion. I know that a lot of people from both sides, from the IT and the OT, get a bit worried about, well, what's the other guy going to want to do? Is he going to mess up my network? But in the long run, it absolutely pays dividends. So it is something I would definitely recommend if you haven't already spoken to your counterpart in either IT or OT or wherever. Definitely just go have a conversation, say what you're doing, what systems you've got, and you'll probably be very surprised at how your overall goals are probably in the same direction, and you can collaborate and actually get more from existing systems. Which leads quite nicely onto the collaboration for securing the industrial side. So once you actually have a coordinated, cohesive network infrastructure, what you're able to do is you're actually able to deliver full cyber data and analytics across everything, which is absolutely key to be able to drive. Apologies, I've got a bit of a cough, so I keep using myself just so you don't have to hear that. But what it does is it just ensures that the full network, anyone out there who wants to take advantage of a network is going to look at the whole of the network. They're not going to just try and attack the IT side. They're going to attack the whole of the network, and they're going to go for the weak point. If your weak point's your OT side, they're going to attack there. If it's your IT side, they're going to attack there. You know, what we can do though is, with the power of Cisco, we can completely seal that off and have one solid unified network. So one of the things that Cisco does is it has the portfolio. If you look at where it sits across pretty much every point, from standard switching and routing through to data centers, telephony, you know, the list goes on and on. IoT now, you know, unbelievable. So what you also have is this underlying core cyber, you know, landscape. So you've got the cybersecurity that spans across absolutely everything. So whether it's network, whether it's edge, whether it's IoT or standard IT, you get a full unified application that can literally cope with anything that is thrown at it. So let's take a quick example here. So in the past, if you had, say, a full high-rise building or whatever like that, you would have probably found that there was several different teams involved in managing the whole of the site. So you would have an IT team that would be running the network IT and the phone system and the general IT, and then you'd have an OT team that would be running all of the building system maintenances and everything like that. But what we can do now is, with this unified IT OT under the power of a single pane of glass, another corny little buzzword, unfortunately, is unify everything. So you can have everything under a single umbrella. And this is probably the absolute best example of bridging both the IT and the OT together to deliver a single network. You've not only still got your core IT network, which is running everything within the building, whether it's offices, office spaces and things like that, but you've also got everything coming in from smart lighting. Loads of money is being saved on clever lighting, clever new lighting solutions. Lights on and off when only office, you know, rooms are being used, hallways, you know, there's going to be somebody going down them. All of the security systems, whether it's physical security cameras, which are, I think the UK is like #1, #2 in the world for number of security cameras per mile or something like that. You know, there's more cameras in the UK than most countries, double our physical area. But you know, we use them as part of an overall security package. But then we're also able to tie in the fire alarm systems, any sensors, everything is being, controlled through a single system. Yes, there is always that tiny little thing in the corner that says, oh, if it's all under one system, what happens? Well, that's why that one system has the redundancy, the backup, and the resiliency to be able to cope with anything. But at the same time, as a single system, you can see everything. You have access to all of the data to be able to then drive the analytics, know the fact that on a Sunday, floors 18 through 30, no one is there. So you can literally shut everything off. You can shut the lighting off. You can shut the network. You can shut the phones off and everything else, and not worry about it. You can save all of that electricity by being powered, by not needing it powered. Or you can turn around and say, as somebody enters the lobby and scans their card, it knows the fact that they're working on the 35th floor in room 1A, and as they scan their card, what it will do is it will turn the air conditioning on in that room. It'll turn the lights on. It'll set their phone up to the right dialing number. So when they arrive, the room's all prepped. It's ready to go, and when they leave, it shuts it all down again. And that's all done from like a scan of the entry system, knowing where people are going, where they're connected to, But then also it's then that wider traceability of if there is an emergency, the system immediately spits out, this is everyone we have, this is everywhere they are, because we know where all the lights are on and the telephone points are connected. So in an emergency, you can have a full instant picture of where everyone is in the building. It's little things like that which can really add to a lot of value. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be one of my presentations if I didn't talk a little bit about some of the OT side of things. So to be able to accommodate this span, this push from the IT side, it's quite amazing that not many people realise that Cisco has a very comprehensive industrial portfolio. Normally you speak to somebody and you say Cisco and they think, oh yeah, big, server rack switches and all this sort of stuff. But it's like, well, they do a full range of fully industrial compliant switches, routers, wireless access devices, you name it, they've got it. So this is just a quick slide to sort of demonstrate some of the breadth. This isn't absolutely everything they do. They're constantly adding to their portfolios through new developments and acquisitions and things like that. They're one of the world leaders in that. But you've got core industrial switching. These have been going for years. They're very robust. They do exactly what they say on the tin. And one of the things that Cisco's driven right the way across this hardware portfolio is they're driving a single unified software platform. So if you have the smallest switch and the largest switch, the same configuration, it's the same interfaces, it's, connects fully into all of the latest DNA center, all of the single one touch, single pane of glass configuration systems. They've got their full software portfolio running right the way across it as well. So you've not only got a physically hardened device, but you've got it powered by the power of its entire IT infrastructure, which is something that not many other people can sort of say that they can offer. Some of the advantages of that, well, any person running your IT department will immediately be able to just jump on and do anything on these. If you've got your full IT system up and running in its Cisco, these will just click in, and immediately then just join to that IT system. So the simplicity and the ease of use of which you can start to deploy these is amazing. They've got everything from IoT gateways, full routing. I mean, Cisco are probably the world's leading routing company. So you've got some of the world's most powerful routing software available at your fingertips. Wireless, you've of course got all the security platform coming across. Things not many people realize, they do embedded products. You don't need to have it in the single box. And then you've got, of course, this underlying software platform. So you've got IOX, edge computing. That's the thing where it can literally start to make decisions. You can program it, do simple programs on it to, get it to do applications for you. And then you've got management automation. They've got software where it will do full analytics, it will do monitoring, it will highlight, trends and things, and it can also, all of these can also then fit back into that wider IT side, whether it's DNA center and stuff like that. So a quick bit about Industrial Network Director. What you've got is a pre-provision of configuration software. It sits across the network design and security policies, swap hardware when it fails and recovers, automated control configuration, and it's supporting all of the latest hardware and software cycles. You've got things like switch configuration, software images, it will check all of those, make sure you're running all of the same networks and everything else like that. So you've got about 67,000 customers already seeing tremendous value from the Cisco portfolio. I mean, the list of networks, the list of customers who are generally running Cisco is pretty much everybody. You take the world's top 10,000 companies in the world, they'll all probably have some sort of Cisco network on it. It's leveraging the power of that with what they're doing in the IT segment as well. So what I'll do is I'll call it there for today.
Thank you very much, Santos, for this very good webinar.
Right. Thank you very much.
And thank you everybody for attending today. I hope this webinar answered your questions, and feel free to contact us if you have any more.